I'm pretty sure at this point, sometime up to this point, I told you that you need to understand 27A to move on to 27B. If not, I'll tell you right now, you need to understand 27A to do 27B. So if you don't understand up, down, left, and right, you might want to go back and check that out very briefly just to make sure you see it, and then come back to this one, because without that A information, this is going to be even crazier. So last lesson we focused on up, down, left, and right. We learned how to use the inside and outside numbers. We learned that the outside numbers move up and down. The inside numbers move left and right. Not only that, they do the opposite. Today we add two concepts to our work. First concept is the negative, and the second concept is what we call a stretch value. So whenever you're dealing with a negative, the negative converts the base portion of the parent function into a negative. We flip it over the x-axis. So if you see a negative, it's just going to flip it. So again, using what we know, this is why you need to know 2.7a. We're jumping right into it. We are going to do everything we know, but we know that there's a negative. We know this based off the absolute value of x. We know that this moves 3 down. We know this moves to positive 2, which is right. And so we're going to go 3 down, 1, 2, 3, 2 right, 1, 2. But here's what the negative does. Instead of going 1 over 1 up, it flips it. It's going to go 1 over and 1 down. Instead of going back 1 and up 1, we are going to flip that and go back 1 and down 1. And you still have a V, but now your V is upside down and inverted. So again, the negative flips it. Hopefully you've written that down already. The negative flips it upside down. That's all it does. Whatever graph you have, whenever you would go up, you go down instead. Whenever you go down, you go up instead. Check out the next one. Square root of negative x. This here is a square root of x function, which is your zero whatever thing where you do the square roots. But this moves up, and this would be negative 4, which is left. So we're going to go 2 up and 4 left. 1, 2, 3, 4. Remember that this is my home point. It flips it. So usually I would say square root of 1 is 1, which would make me go 1 up, but I want to go square root of 1 is 1 because that's what the negative does. I don't know the square root of 2, square root of 3, square root of 4. So I do know square root of 4, so I go 1, 2, 3, 4. And when I would have originally gone up 2, I now go down 2. Even more than that, if you wanted to be accurate, you can actually do a square root of 9 if it exists. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and go 1, 2, 3. But you don't have to. As long as you've got those main 3 points and you've got the general idea, I'm good with that. The key thing with negatives is instead of going up, you go down. So whatever the graph would look like, it should be the inverted version of it. Whatever the graph would look like, it should be the flipped over version of it, and it flips that way, not sideways. So again, it's upside down version of what's going on. The key thing to remember this is that the negative turns all of our ups into downs. The rules for each parent function stays the same. Stretch value. Let's look at the basic parent functions and their main points. This 0, 0, 1 over 1 up, back 1, up 1. X squared 0, 0 over 1 up 1, back 1, up 1. Makes a U. X to the third 0, 0 over 1 up 1, back 1, down 1 because x to the third, and it's shaped like a U with a nice little move in the middle. So notice that the slope outside of those points in terms of the ones on over 1 and back 1 are 1. The stretch value just changes that number. So again, your stretch value, just instead of going 1, you'd go based off what the stretch value is. So looking at this, you have now an absolute value of x graph that moves, it's an inside, so it'll be 3 left. So it'll go 1, 2, 3 because it has no outside plus or minus, so it's just going to move left 1, 2, 3. And now you factor in the stretch value. So instead of going 1, we're going to go 2. So over 1 still, but instead of going up 1, we're going to stretch it to go up 2. Instead of going back 1 and up 1, we're going to stretch that and go up 2. And so what that does to our V is it makes it more narrow. Okay? So again, what that does for my V is it makes it narrow. In this case, be careful, because there is no inside number with that x squared. It's just x squared and plus 4, which means this moves 4 up. So I go 1, 2, 3, 4. But it also has a negative, which means instead of going up, I'm going to go down. And it has a stretch factor of 1/2, which means instead of going 1 over 1 and up 1, first I would go down, but I'm only going to go down 1/2 because that's what the stretch factor tells me to do. I'm going to go back 1 instead of going up. I'm going to go down because it's negative, but I'm also going to only go down 1/2 because that's what the stretch factor tells me. And what that does to my graph is it widens my U. That's it. So once you kind of get that down, that's where your main practice is going to be. And it may seem weird, but again, the good news is you should have already done 2.7a and kind of got it understood. So really all you're doing today is kind of taking what you kind of know or should know and adding 2 more pieces to it. Here, this is going to move up and right, and it's going to have a stretch factor of 3. So 2 up, 1, 2, 1 right, there's your 1. It's a x to the 3rd root because I see that, which means I go over 1 up 1, but I don't go over 1 up 1, I go over 1 up 3. I would think over 1 down 1, but it's over 1 down 1, 2, 3, which again, shape-wise, just takes this S and stretches it more. So that it's not that compact S now. Now it's more like a weird-looking line. But as long as you have that curve going down and up, I'll understand. Whatever you do, don't draw a line through it because you will miss that. And then the last one, this is going to move down. This is going to be -1, which is left, and a stretch factor of 2. So going to your home point first, 2 down, 1 left, so 1, 2, and 1. I remember that this is the 3rd root of x function, which kind of looks like this, that S thing, because it's like a double square root function. And so what I will do is, I remember I used to go over 1, up 1, but again, this is telling me don't go up 1, go up 2. I would usually go back 1 and down 1, but again, this is saying go back and down 2. And so what it does is it takes that shape that I know I'm supposed to have and it makes it more defined. Stretches it out. All right. The key to learning this is to ensure you have a firm grasp on the basics. That's why I said you want to make sure you at least know 2.7a before you move to here. The new information just requires a slight shift. It does take some practice, but again, if you use me like you're supposed to, with me sitting in front of you most of the day, you should be okay. Again, the issue tends to arise when you don't feel like asking me for whatever reason, and so you take a day off to not ask questions, and then one day's questions turns into 2 days worth of questions, and everything starts to compound. And then you have a test tomorrow or a quiz tomorrow, and I can't answer and get you to know everything in one day. So make sure you're using me on a regular basis, even in terms of emails and things like that. So I will talk to you all later, and good luck.